So now today we are going to do another case study, another use case you can say. And in this use case, my objective is to load the data, okay, from your input container. So input container is nothing but a space within your storage account, okay, to SQL database, right? So SQL database will be within the Azure itself, okay? So when we are talking about Azure cloud, right? So Azure cloud is having, storage account for us, which is tagged under resource group, okay? So in this storage account, we have a container. Okay, and in our container, we have created two containers basically. One is input container and another one is output container. So container is nothing but a folder structure within the storage account. And this storage account stores the data in file system, in file format. Okay, so it means the storage account is of type Azure Blob, or you can say ADLS Gen 2. ADLS Zen 2, right? So basically, whenever we are storing any file within the cloud, now what are the format of the file? Any file could be of format Excel, it could be of CSV, it could be of binary, right? I showed you the all the options, right? It could be of Parquet file, okay? It could be of AVRO file, okay? It could be of the JSON file, right? So uh, now this cloud accept every kind of files which is available in IT industry, right? So all if you're storing these files, you have to store in ADLS Gen 2 or Azure Blob, and everything will be under storage account, right? So in the previous case study, what we have seen, we have a sales data actually, right? And this sales data we were having in input container, and we have created one ADF pipeline, right, to move our sales data from input container to output container. This is what we have done so far, correct? So basically we are moving the data within the cloud only. This is nothing but an Azure cloud, okay? uh, Now, in this Azure cloud, we have other services also. For example, if you want to store the data in SQL database, we have something known as Azure SQL DB provided within the cloud. Agreed? So now with this case study today, first of all, I'm going to create an Azure, I'm going to enable this Azure SQL database within the cloud. For example, the way I have created storage account in a similar way, because storage account is also a kind of resource. As I mentioned you in the previous classes, the resource is nothing but any kind of services, right? Which you are availing from Microsoft Azure is the resource. These resource, if you because you are not only creating one single services, you are using multiple services because you are using storage account, you are using Azure SQL DB, you are using ADF. So all these multiple resources will be tagged under resource group. This was the concept. Agree? Now, now today's case study will talk about we have to move this sales data once again from input container to the Azure SQL DB. So is this requirement clear? Or do you have any questions? I think it's clear. Okay, so this is my object. Now, first step, what I need to do here is I need to first create the Azure SQL DB, okay, within the cloud. Okay, so let's do that. Just a second. Okay, so you can see this is my recent, resources which I have created. So recent resources, it's having this icon is nothing but a storage account. So if I see within the storage account, I'm having, this is the container under data storage folder. So in this input container, I can see this is the sales record. Okay. This is the name of the file. Okay. So what I should do now, I will go to home. I will go to more services and I will search for Azure SQL DB. Azure SQL DB. Okay. So this is a, you should select this SQL database. Okay. Now, if you have to create, you just have to hit on create option and you can see that want to try Azure SQL DB for free, create a free serverless database with first these many core and 32 GB of data and 32 GB of package storage free per month for the lifetime. So see, that's what, if you are, using this as your SQL DB, you should be very careful with the, limit. So you should be not loading very heavy data. Okay, because 32 GB is the limit. Okay, so because this is a free trial subscription, now I have to select resource group. So this is the resource group which I have created. Then I should give the database name. So I can give the database name like SQL DB, right? Just try to give a simple name if it allows. Yeah, it is allowing. Okay. The same name will not be used. Okay. So select a server. So basically, do you know the concept of SQL DB and servers? So we should understand this concept. So what is SQL DB? So SQL DB is a database, okay, which stores the data. Okay. So whenever any data is have to be stored, that will be stored under this. Let me draw the database. So this is the database. So this is having tables, multiple tables, and tables is nothing but a logical definition of the columns where you can store the data. So imagine this is the combination of rows and columns is nothing but a tables. So we need to first store the data within the table. But if we have to read this data or do any kind of operation on top of this data, so we need SQL Server also. So server is nothing but an infrastructure using which you can do any kind of operations. Basically, do you know any kind of operation means DML operations. Okay. So DML operation is nothing but creating table, creating entries, inserting entries, create, insert, delete, update. These are known as DML operation. Okay. Operations, update. So the meaning of creation is, the meaning of creating is if you want to create any entry or table, you can do that. If you, with the help of SQL Server, if you have to insert any data within this table, you can do that. If you have to delete any data within this table, you can do that. And if you have to update any record, update means suppose the price of any commodity is $20. Now you want to update this for $30, right? The same price, you can do that. Right. So this is known as DML operations. So for all the DML operation, SQL Server is required. So you cannot directly create the SQL database, but you have to create SQL Server also. So that's the reason it is asking for SQL Server. But so far we have not created any SQL Server. That's why no item is available. So what I have to do, I have to hit on create new. Now I have to give a server name. So let's give a server name like SQL Server. Like this, right? It's saying this specified server is already in use in this location, right? So I can do this SQL Server. Let me put one more R here. This is again, okay, no problem. SQL DB server, something like that. Okay. Okay, server one. So I want to make simple, okay? SQL DB server one, okay. Now, so this will be our .database.windows.net. This will automatically will be appended at the end. Okay, fine. Now what I should, okay, now set Microsoft Intro admin not selected. Okay. So I'm selecting myself as an admin. So, okay, so guys, here is the mistake last time we did. So in authentication method, there are three options. Use Microsoft Entra only authentication, use both SQL and Microsoft Entra authentication, and use SQL authentication. Just for simplicity, I'm using this SQL authentication so that I can use the password and login by myself. Is that right? If I will use Microsoft Entra authentication, it will not allow me to enter my own password. This is the recommended approach, but just for sake of simplicity, I'm just doing this. So when I select use SQL authentication, what we have to do is we have to write the admin login. Okay, so I can enter server admin login. So just for sake of simplicity, what I am doing, I am using the same as a username. Fine. So I'm using same as a username, and I will use same as a password also. SQL DB SRV1. Now it's saying English uppercase letter is also required. Okay. So at the rate, at the end, I'm just putting at the rate after one. Okay. Now the same thing, I have to re-enter this password SQL DB SRVR1 at the rate. Is it not matching? I think it should match, right? I don't know why it is not matching. Let me try one more time. SQL DB SRVR1 at the rate. Okay. Your password cannot contain all or part of login name. Okay. Okay. Let me do another way. India at the rate 1, 3. Okay, you can see the password. This is the password I have entered. Fine. Yeah, very important. Right? Okay. Now I can hit on OK. So my server is ready now. Then other options, I can go inside networking, connectivity method. This is fine. Okay. Security. We can enable the Microsoft Defender for SQL. So right now I'm not enabling any further services. Okay, so this is also fine. Okay, additional setting. So we should keep everything by default, right? Okay. So maintenance window is automatically coming as system 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Fine. So tags is also okay. So tags we will configure this later if required. Review and create. Okay. So finally we are creating this. Okay. This time it will be fine. You know how to create database and how to create SQL server, right? So the moment you have created the database and SQL server, you don't have to create anything like this. I have private endpoint or virtual network which I created. Okay, you can just avoid that. You can delete also right now. I will delete that. So after creating that, you have to go inside this SQL database. You have to go here, and here the option will come like set server firewall, correct? Then you should select, there should be automatically selected as disabled, right? Now this time you have to select this one, selected network, and this will say connection from IP address configured in firewall rule section below will have access to this database. So actually this is my IP address. If tomorrow I will log in tomorrow and my IP address got changed, then what I have to do? I have to again hit on this add your client IP address. It will automatically read my IP address and make one more entry. Okay. And you have to select this checkbox to allow Azure services and resources. Means this IP address will be allowed to use any kind of Azure services and resources. So is that clear to everyone? Now, very basic step. You should create and you should allow your IP address so that firewall will not stop you. Simple. Okay. And this is the option where even if it is changing, you have to hit and it will, take your latest IP address and add it. It will create multiple entries. Okay. So this is I did. And once you did that, you can go to, okay, you can go once again to the home page. You can go to SQLDB and here we have a query editor. Okay. You can go to query editor. You can use your password. So this has set up your thing. Now you can see this is the query editor. Means you can write any table, you can create any table. So no table has created so far, no view is there, no stored procedure is there. So what I did, what I will do, I will create the cards table having, so thanks that we have checked the data and we got this is the right table. So this has created now. If I refresh, you can see this is the cards table created. Agree? Any questions till now? So guys, your cards table is in the SQLDB. Agreed? Now, what is the input is also having cars CSV, isn't it? Now what you have to do, you have to create a pipeline, right? So where you have to go, guys? You have to go in ADF. You have to hit on Launch Studio. This is the way you have created the pipeline. Agreed? Now, so very first thing is, if you have to create a pipeline, okay, create a pipeline, what is the essential thing is required? The first thing is link services are required, right? So what is your input? Input is available in storage account in CSV file. It means there should be a link services for ADLS Gen 2. Making sense? And what is your output? Output is your SQLDB, SQL database, because you have to, move the data from input folder to respective table which we have created, right? So there should be a link services which connect to the SQLDB, right? Link services underscore SQLDB. So this is the first thing. So let's go. We can go here, manage. We can see link services already there for ADLS Gen 2, correct? But we don't have a link services for SQLDB. Agreed? So what we should do? We should create a link services. For which system? SQL database. Right? So this is the Azure SQLDB. We can create a link services. So you can just rename this as ls underscore SQLDB, right? And what you can do, you can choose your free trial subscription. Then what is the server name? So you should know the server name. So I can go to home. This is the server name. This is the server name, SQL server. What is the name of server? SQLDB server 1, right? So we should enter the accurate name. Oh, we can drill down. This has come. What is the database name? Again, you can drill down. Your database will come. One is the master data. Another one is SQLDB. So I will hit on SQLDB because this server is associated with this database only. Okay. Now, what is the authentication type? Do you remember when I was setting the server name, I have selected SQL authentication where I have used the password and username, right? So what was the username? Username was as same as your this server name, right? So I have kept SQL DB SVR server 1. This was the username and password was, India at the rate 1234. Okay, let me check the password also. Okay, got it. Now this okay, trust, this one, trust server certificate. Okay, this looks fine. Let's try to create this. Not now. Okay, so this has created. Agreed? Any questions so far? No questions? So our link services is created. Yeah, yeah, correct, correct. No, no. What's your question? In input, we have CSV data. What is next? Okay. So see, you SQL query, you have why you have created a SQL query. Okay, because input you have a this data is in CSV file, correct? Hmm? So in SQL database, right? SQL database does not, load the CSV file directly, right? That is clear. So in SQL database, there will be a tables, right? So you have to load this data from this input container to SQL database. So you have to create a table. Agreed? The table should be having same structure of this CSV file. This CSV file is right now having 5 columns. Agreed? So you have to create a table having 5 columns, right? Why? Because you have to load this data, car CSV, in this table, right? But you cannot load directly, right? First, you have to create the table, right? So my first action is within this SQL database, I have used this query create table with cars. The name of this table is cars, and these are the 5 columns: make, model, type, origin, drive trade, and length, right? So these are the 5 columns. So now this is the table ready, but this table is empty. This table is no data. Agreed? Now, what will happen when I create a pipeline, right? When I create a pipeline, this will extract the data. This will extract the data from this car CSV and load into this table. My pipeline work like this because I told you pipeline is all meant for ETL operation. Or right now we are not doing ETL. We are just doing a copy activity. The meaning of copy activity is we are just moving the data from here and there. So we are moving from input container to this table. Agreed? Now because this once we execute the pipeline, all the entries from this CSV file will be filled in this table. Agreed? This was my objective. So my first activity was to create the table within SQL and how to create that using this SQL script, right? So that's why you are able to see the data. I think I have closed that screen, right? So now the next part of it is because I have to create a pipeline. So first thing I should be having, because I'm connecting with input container. So I should be having a link services for ADLS Gen 2 because CSV file is nothing but ADLS Gen 2 only, right? So this ADLS Gen 2 is available for input container, right? And for SQL DB, because we are moving the data from input to SQL DB. So for SQL DB also, there should be a link services, right? So I created a link services here. This is the link services I created for SQL database, right? Now it is done. So next item is I will go in author. I will create a pipeline. I will hit on these three dots. I will hit on new pipeline and I will name this pipeline as a PL underscore SQL. I can mention like this sales, not sales, sorry. It's a cars. Okay. Cars data SQL. So I'm moving the cars data in SQL, right? So this is my description. Now what I will do, I will just bring this copy activity, okay, and let's rename this. So guys, are you okay to extend this session for another 15-20 minutes, or else if you want I can, yeah, okay, then it's fine. Okay, just a second, let me plug in. Okay, so what I'm doing, copy input, okay, copy cars data to SQLs. I'm writing something like that, or you can make this as a description, or you can say like this, copy cars, something like that, right? Rest of the things I am just keeping as it is to make it. So source data set, you know how to create. I will click on new and okay, someone wants to join. Let me see who is going to join. Shilpa, okay. Might be Shilpa has dropped. Yeah. Okay. So right now we are creating data set. Why we are creating data set? Because we have an input, input container is having a CSV file. This is known as source. This is source, right? This is source and this is sink. Okay. So source is having the data in CSV format. So definitely we have to create a data set for source. This is what we are creating. And source is nothing but ADLS Gen 2. So we will choose ADLS Gen 2 here, right? Okay, so ADLS Gen 2 we have chosen, we have select OK. This is in CSV, we will select CSV, we'll hit on continue. We will rename this as DS underscore cars input, right? Because this is the cars data available in my input container. I will select link services, right? Then I will select this browse option, okay? It's saying edit interactive authoring, okay? Sometime it gives this error, okay? Sometime it is not giving. So this integration runtime is trying to, access my input container. And the last, yesterday you asked this question, why it is not coming, right? So it depends. Sometime it comes, sometime it does not come, right? Interactive authoring, I have to enable this. So time to live is 60 minutes. Okay. So I click on OK for 60 minutes. It is enabled. Enabled means your integration runtime is trying to access the file. Okay. So once it is done, Okay. Yeah, still it's moving. Okay. Anyways, let me cover. Let's wait for get this thing done. So we have created a data set. Similarly, we have to create a data set for source as well. Okay. Now this data set, because this data set is created for which system? It's for SQL database system, right? So this time we will select SQL DB. Okay. It is done. It's green. So I will retry this. You can see now you are able to check your containers. So this we are having two files. So that's why both files is visible. I will select this one which I need. Okay. Now I will choose this first option. I have already explained you. I will hit on OK. So you have created this data set, right? So I'm not going to change anything. I will directly jump into sync. I will hit on new. Now which one I need to select for sync? Yes, SQL. So this is the SQL, Azure SQL database. I will hit on continue and I will rename this based on my convention ds underscore cars SQL. Okay, simple. So this is the link services which is automatically available for SQL database only because I have selected SQL DB. Okay, now this time you can see the options are different because in SQL DB, the system knows that there would be a table. Okay, only. So you can see my table name is coming like this. Okay, now import schema is from connection store or none. So we don't have to import any schema because it's already created. This table is already created, right? I created this table. So I can choose none. I will hit OK. Fine. Now I'm not touching anything extra. Okay. But there is a one interesting option, guys. Okay. Uh, if you see, if you selected this cars, this thing, correct, then there is a write behavior. The write behavior means you want to insert the data, you want to upsert the data, or you want to use some stored procedure. Okay. So this is very interesting concept. If this is a table, this is a blank table. What do you mean by insert? You will simply insert the records. If there are 500 records, you will insert 500. Next time when job runs, because you have mentioned insert means again it will insert 500. So it will become 1000. Third time you trigger the job, again it will insert 500. It will become 1500. So insert will not think what data is existing before. Okay. If you want to use upsert means first it will check whatever I am loading, actually it was previously loaded or not. If it is loaded, it will override the entry. For example, the first time you loaded 500 records. The second time by mistake or intentionally you triggered the pipeline. Then system will first check the key fields and see that, okay, it was inserted already. So it will override those 500 only. So it will not be increasing to 1000 records, right? But we are not using upsert. I will use it later. Stored procedure simply means you want to put some logic before uploading. For example, you want to load out of this 500, you only want to load 200 records because 300 records are inactive and 200 records are active. So there could be a column, or you can say that this cars is a data having, design of cars. Uh, 200 records, 200 cars are black in color and 300 cars are white in color. You want to load the data only for white colored cars. So you can put this logic in a stored procedure. So anyways, we are not touching this right away. Bulk insert table lock. No, so I'm not going to log. Okay. The table, for example, if you're inserting that table data in a billions of record, then nobody else can read that same table again, right? So I'm not creating any log for that. Table option, pre-script query. So what the table option is very interesting. For example, Priya, to your question, I have created a table using this script, right? Using this programming, I have created the table. But imagine I have no option, I have not created the table. So if you choose this will automatically create the table. Okay. But because I am already using the existing table, so I have selected this existing table. Okay. But in the case, there is no need to create any table. You can also choose auto create table. Till the time you guys are with me. Now, again, for mapping, I need to hit on this button, which is known as import schema. Okay. And I'm not going to change anything. Okay. Let's be as it is. Setting also, I'm clear. I don't have to do anything. Okay. And now I'm good to go now. Okay. So I can publish also, or I can, debug that before publishing, because debug will also give me the error. Okay. But let's, let's publish this. No problem. Okay. So this is the same exercise that we have did, but we have selected sync as a SQL database. Now, if I hit on this debug option, right? Let me make a space. I can hit that. I will make this a little upward. This is queued status. So I am going to execute this. Run this basically. Refresh this, sorry. So initial status was queued. If you want to see, this is the, this is your JSON format thing. If people want to read this JSON, they can do that. Let me refresh once again. Still in queue. Ideally, it should not take so much of time. Monitor in Azure metrics, we can monitor that also. See, this monitor will only come when you guys add trigger, because we are only debugging this, right? Okay, now it is started. Okay. So if it is started, we can see the progress also using this binocular. So you can see that this is in progress. This is my region, East US2, and this is move OK. Why this has taken time, guys? This is the problem. Actually, I have created my storage account in East US2, and I have created my SQL DB in Central US, right? So definitely interacting between two data centers will take some time. Okay. So basically, you should not use this kind of stuff. Okay. You should always, so it is succeeded now anyways. So it is, if it is succeeded, then my table should be having that entry, isn't it? So how I can see the table? I can go to my SQL database. Let me check. It's opening. I don't know why it's taking time to open. Let me go from here also. Okay. So I can go to SQL DB. Okay. I can go in query editor. I can enter my password. Okay. Or what I can do, I can select star from cars. Okay. So the data has feeded, right? If you want to see the count, you can write this and you can see 428 records are loaded. So finally, you have achieved your target, right? Your target was the data of cars which was available in the input container should be loaded in SQL database, right? In the table name as cars. Is this clear to everyone?